Hi everyone, it's Lisette. Welcome to Proverbs Home. Today I have a very special video for you. This is going to be like a rendition of a story that I wrote, and it's called The Merry Spinster. And in this video, her name is Lydia. And I hope you really enjoy this video. If you want to sit on back and get yourself something to drink, a piece of dessert, and just sit on back and enjoy. And I'll be back at the end of the video. Hi everyone, my name is Lydia and I live in Roanoke, North Carolina. I am what's considered a spinster. At the age of 24, I was called a spinster by many in the community. You see, I never married. I worked since the age of 16 as a servant girl. Even though I live in the 1800s, I still like to work. My parents, they were hard workers. My father was a locksmith, and he worked very hard but did not make enough money to take care of the family. So I decided to go out and find work. I started working as a servant girl, and I worked for the old Mrs. Whitfield. Mrs. Whitfield was a very nice lady. However, she wasn't much fun. We were not allowed to have beaux, and we had to go to church, which was a good thing because now I am a woman of faith, and I do enjoy Proverbs, and I do enjoy singing Psalms, and I do enjoy singing in the choir. I like to carry around with me my pretty bucket, and in my bucket I have something special that I'm going to share with you. Talking about my kitchen has one rickety table that my dad built for me many years ago, which I love. I love the memories that surround my table. I also love decorating my table with a beautiful doily and wildflowers. I like how my teapots and my teacups adorn my shelves in my kitchen. I also enjoy my living space. I love my lace curtains that drape all the way down to my floor, and I also love sitting in a rocking chair enjoying a very sweet cherry cordial. I really enjoy my cottage. Sometimes I love going in my old trunk in the attic and taking out my mom's old wedding gown. I love to dress it on and look in the old cracked mirror and twirl around and dream about being no longer a spinster, but being married one day, meeting that special someone. I do hire gardeners to work in my garden. I always thought maybe I would meet a gardener, fall in love, but they were never Mr. Right. However, I'm kind of sad because I did meet a very special gardener. One day, as I was sipping my cherry cordial, looking in the Daytime Gazette and reading the latest gossip around town, I heard a knock at the door. I jumped out of my rocking chair and I ran to the door and I opened the door, and there stood the most handsomest man I've ever seen. He was tall, wearing a white buttoned shirt with suspenders and some really nice beige trousers. He also was carrying a sack with him, but I noticed his boots were pretty rugged and muddy, like he had been walking for days. He continued to explain who he was. My name is Aaron, and I am 35. I'm trying to find work to send money home to my mom. I thought, wow, that is very special. I explained to him, you would have to stay in the old shed my father built on the other side of the yard. Consequently, he was okay with that. As the days went by, I started to make my special apple cider cake. My apple cider cake is so special, and I decided to make this for Mr. Aaron. He loved my apple cider cake, and he loved my sun tea. And we would sit on the porch in the evening time, talk about the day's work, talk about hollyhocks, and talk about the beautiful sunsets that we would watch together. I started noticing that his glances and his smiles were a little sweeter as each day went by. However, there was no declaration of loving me. But my heart started to feel warm, and every time I was around him, I started to care for him more than any other gardener. I continued to make my apple cider cakes and my sun tea. One day, as we were sitting on the porch, rocking back and forth, drinking a nice cold glass of tea, Aaron placed his tea down on the wicker table, looked at me and said, "Miss Lydia, you have been a joy to my heart, but I must now leave. I finally feel something special for someone kind, and he's got to go." I said, "Why do you have to leave?" He said, "I will be back one day." I just thought to myself, will he truly be back? I have some tokens I want to leave with you, and I'm going to show you the tokens that he left with me. I love my little bucket. It's so cute. He left me some beautiful blooms, and he said, "Hold on to these and remember that they never will die." He left me a beautiful ring, and he said, "Hold on to that because that belonged to my mom, and she's very special, and I'm going to be traveling for days trying to find work, and I don't want to lose it." And then he left me a beautiful heart, and it said, "Be mine." He said, "Hold on to that heart and remember that you are my special friend." I felt very saddened that my Aaron was going away. I knew he wasn't really mine. As the swaying of his rocking chair stopped, he stood up, grabbed me by my hand, and said, "Miss Lydia, I must now go." He gently kissed my hand and walked away. As I watched him walk away, he walked into the wooden shed, picked up his sack, put on his rugged boots, and off he went. I watched the cattails swayed as he walked by, and I thought to myself, there goes my Mr. Aaron. I was so sad. Days went by, and I continued to make my apple cider cake. Weeks went by. I continued to sit on the porch, looking from a distance to see if Mr. Aaron would be walking my way again. But I never saw him. As the weeks went by, and as the years went by, Mr. Aaron never came back. I was very disappointed. The ladies in the community, they walked by me and said, "Once again, you lost another gardener. Would you ever get married, Miss Lydia?" And I thought to myself, no, I don't think I will. So I continued to sing in the church choir. I continued to make my apple cider cakes. I continued to hope that one day Mr. Aaron will come back. But 3 years went by and I finally gave up. I sat back in my rocking chair drinking my cherry cordial and reading the latest gossip in the Gazette. My friend Susie really loves that magazine. She comes over every morning with a copy to tell me about the latest news. Who's marrying who? Did Mrs. Winfield pay her new servant girl? We sat and we talked, and we even talked about Aaron. She said, "Lydia, you need to let him go. He's not coming back. Those tokens probably were just tokens of affection that he gives every spinstress when he visits upon their cottage." But in my heart, I just knew. I just knew to keep trying on that wedding gown. As I sat in my rocking chair sipping my cherry cordial one day, I heard a knock on the door, and I jumped up and thought to myself, it's Aaron. And I ran to the door and opened the door, and there stood Mr. Pembroke, the postal man. He said, "Miss Lydia, I have a letter for you." And I thought, it's got to be my parents again. But when I looked at the envelope, it said, "To Miss Lydia from Mr. Parker." Maybe it's an old gardener that I forgot to pay wages to. I don't know. It might be. I paid Mr. Pembroke a tip. As he went off down the cobblestone street in his horse and carriage, I sat out on the porch and I opened up the letter. And this is what was sent to me. It says, "To Lydia, I always love you, Aaron." And I realized he sent me a letter. Then the letter read, "As I lay here on my sickbed, there's something I've been wanting to tell you. I've loved you since the first day I saw you. I was so saddened to know that your love was not returned in the same manner that I felt for you. One day I was walking back to the cottage to declare my love for you. And the closer I got, I noticed the smell of apple cider cake. I knew that you only baked apple cider cake for the gardeners who visit upon your cottage. I did not want to be confronted with a situation of someone else who has gazed upon you and asked for your hand in marriage." At first, I was sad at this letter, and at first I teared and cried. But then I thought about it. Did he not trust me and love me enough to declare his love for me? I always felt like a married spinster. But then I really thought about it. Love is about trust. Love is about being bold. Love is about standing for the ones you love. And even though Mr. Aaron was pretty special to me, I think he was missing something that meant a lot to me. That was boldness and bravery. Yes, his eyes were beautiful and they danced. Yes, his smile was kind and sweet, and he was a gentleman with very gentle manners. However, I think I'll stay a spinster. I think I'll enjoy being a spinster. I think I'll stop baking apple cider cakes, and now I'll start baking strawberry shortcakes. I hope you enjoy learning about me. I hope you enjoy visiting Roanoke, North Carolina, and knowing that you are special too. I hope you enjoyed this story of Mary Spinster. I wrote this back in 2018, and I just wanted to write a story about a woman that was considered a spinster back in the 1800s, even in the early 1900s. By the age 24, if they weren't married, they were considered a spinster. But it's also a story about courage. It's also a story about waiting, making sure you know someone. You know, when she received the letter, it said Mr. Parker. She's like, who is Mr. Parker? She never got to even know his last name, that his name was Mr. Parker. However, she realized that if he truly would have loved her, he should have came to the door. What do you think he should have done? There is a sequel to this story, and I am looking forward to sharing it with you one day. May God bless you, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.